More than a century ago, Ernest Shackleton set sail from England with the goal of becoming the first explorer to cross the Atlantic.
Researchers have discovered the British ship called Endurance, the vessel that launched one of the most remarkable stories of survival and determination.
Far beneath the frozen surface of the Weddell Sea, in one of the most hostile environments on Earth, a long-lost chapter of human history has finally come back into view. After more than a century hidden beneath Antarctic ice and darkness, the wreck of Ernest Shackleton's ship, Endurance, has been located resting quietly on the ocean floor. Preserved by extreme cold and crushing depth, the ship offers a rare, almost unsettling connection to one of the greatest survival stories ever recorded. The Endurance began its journey in January 1915, when British explorer Sir Ernest Shackleton set sail with an ambition that bordered on the impossible. His goal was to lead the first expedition to cross the Antarctic continent on foot, a journey that would test human limits in a land where nature dominates completely. Shackleton assembled a crew of 27 men and selected a ship specifically designed for polar conditions. The Endurance was a three-masted wooden vessel, heavily reinforced to withstand ice pressure and considered among the strongest ships of its time. Confidence was high as the expedition entered the Southern Ocean, but the environment quickly asserted control. As the ship pushed into the Weddell Sea, pack ice began to close in earlier and more aggressively than expected. By early 1915, the Endurance was completely trapped. Attempts to free the ship failed, and Shackleton soon realized that escape was no longer possible. The vessel became locked into the ice, drifting helplessly as the Antarctic winter closed around it. For nearly 10 months, the crew lived aboard the immobilized ship. Darkness stretched for weeks at a time. Temperatures plunged well below zero. Supplies had to be rationed carefully, and morale became as critical as food. Shackleton maintained strict routines, enforcing structure and discipline to prevent despair from taking hold. The ship, however, could not withstand the pressure forever. By October 1915, the ice began to crush the Endurance with relentless force. The hull groaned and splintered as massive sheets of ice pressed inward. The crew watched helplessly as their ship, their shelter and lifeline, was slowly destroyed. In November, the Endurance finally gave way and sank beneath the ice, disappearing into the deep waters of the Weddell Sea. Shackleton and his men were left standing on drifting ice floes, thousands of miles from civilization, with no means of communication and no expectation of rescue. What followed was a prolonged fight for survival that would define Shackleton's legacy. The crew established camps on the ice, salvaging what they could from the wreck before it vanished. Shackleton initially hoped the drifting ice might carry them north toward known land, but the movement was slow and unpredictable. As conditions worsened and the ice began to break apart in April 1916, he made a decisive choice. The men launched 3 lifeboats into the open sea, facing freezing water, violent storms, and constant danger. After days of exposure and exhaustion, they reached Elephant Island, a remote and uninhabited outcrop far from any shipping routes. Although they had reached solid ground, their situation remained desperate. Shackleton understood that waiting meant death. Leaving the majority of his crew behind under the care of trusted officers, he selected 5 men and set out in the strongest lifeboat, the James Caird, on an 870-mile voyage across the Southern Ocean to South Georgia. The journey has since been described as one of the most extraordinary small boat voyages in maritime history. Battling towering waves, freezing spray, and constant fatigue, the 6 men navigated using only a sextant and rare breaks in cloud cover. A single navigational error would have meant missing South Georgia entirely and being lost at sea. Against all odds, they survived. Landing on the wrong side of South Georgia presented another challenge. With their boat too damaged to continue, Shackleton and two companions crossed the island's unmapped mountains and glaciers on foot, without proper gear or rest, to reach a whaling station. From there, Shackleton immediately began organizing rescue efforts. After multiple failed attempts blocked by ice and weather, he finally succeeded. Every surviving member of the Endurance expedition was rescued. Not a single life was lost. For more than 100 years, the ship itself remained missing, sealed beneath ice and water. That changed in 2022, when an international team led by the Falklands Maritime Heritage Trust returned to the Weddell Sea armed with Shackleton's original logs and advanced technology. Autonomous underwater vehicles were deployed, descending nearly 10,000 feet through freezing water and immense pressure, scanning the seabed in near-total darkness. When the wreck finally appeared on camera, the moment was described as haunting. The Endurance lay upright on the ocean floor, remarkably well preserved. Its wooden hull remained intact, its railings still standing, and the ship's name was clearly visible on the stern. In the frigid depths of the Weddell Sea, organisms that normally consume wooden wrecks do not survive, leaving the ship almost frozen in time. Operators guiding the underwater robots described a profound sense of unease as the vessel emerged from the darkness. After hours of empty sea floor, the sudden appearance of the ship felt almost unnatural. Some reported fleeting shapes moving at the edge of the lights, likely deep-sea creatures drawn by the disturbance. Scientists dismissed speculation, but acknowledged that the deep Antarctic ecosystem remains largely unexplored. The discovery was not simply archaeological. It provided tangible confirmation of a story long known only through journals, photographs, and memory. The Endurance is now recognized as one of the best preserved wooden shipwrecks ever found, offering future researchers an unprecedented opportunity to study early 20th century polar exploration. The search itself echoed Shackleton's experience. Initial missions were forced to retreat due to ice conditions and technical failures, including the temporary loss of an underwater vehicle. Only persistence, careful planning, and respect for the environment made success possible. In that sense, the modern expedition reflected the same qualities that allowed Shackleton's men to survive more than a century earlier. Today, the wreck of the Endurance is protected under international agreements. It will not be razed or disturbed. Instead, it remains on the seabed as a historical monument, preserved for future generations as a reminder of both human vulnerability and resilience. Shackleton never achieved his original goal of crossing Antarctica, yet his expedition became something far greater than a geographical achievement. It became a case study in leadership, adaptability, and responsibility under extreme pressure. The rediscovery of the Endurance does not rewrite that story. It reinforces it. More than a century after it vanished beneath the ice, the Endurance rests in silence, a powerful reminder that while nature may always hold the upper hand, human determination can still leave an enduring mark.